say that you should never meet your heroes. I have no idea why. I've spent the last 3 to 4 days with one of mine and it hasn't disappointed at all. It's been everything that I hoped and dreamed that it would be. I am of course talking about the Honda NSX. I was born in the early 80s, which meant when I was 10, 11, 12 years old, I had posters of these things all over my walls. I never thought that I'd ever actually get the opportunity to drive one. And after 12 years as a motoring journalist, I've finally had that opportunity. So what I really wanted to do is to build my own opinion of the car. I wanted to come in without any misconceptions. I didn't want to be influenced by what people have said previously. I really wanted to have a look at the car for what it really is. Is it everything that I hoped it would be? Is it the perfect driver's car? Can I feel Ayrton Senna's finesse in the chassis work? Well, today we get the opportunity to find out. Okay, let's talk about the steering. Now the later cars came with power steering, the early ones didn't. Yesterday we had 3 NSXs together, including a very rare NA1 Type R that was completely stripped out from the factory. It didn't even have any central locking. One thing that the car didn't have is power steering, and it meant that it's heavy, but you feel every single crevice in the road. There's no vagueness about the drive at all. Here in this car you do have power steering, and it's very light, very light. The first quarter turn, as you turn in, you can do it with 2 fingers, absolutely fine. And if you're trying to balance this car, you're trying to really get involved in the twisties, it feels perfect. But, and there is a big but, it weights up. And it doesn't seem to weight up with speed, it weights up in terms of the angle of rotation of the steering wheel. So you get about a quarter of turn in. There's no sharp enough corners here to demonstrate, but you get a quarter of turn in and all of a sudden the steering gets heavier. Is that a problem? Well, not necessarily. But if you're in the corner and then it tightens up a bit more, the force and the effort that you have to put in is greatly increased and it can catch you out. It's something that you need to get used to, because you find yourself delicately holding the steering wheel and all of a sudden grabbing hold of it and pushing in using a lot more force. The steering, if I'm honest, isn't as sharp, isn't as pointy and directed as I thought that it might possibly be. But it's an amazing car. The suspension is so supple. If you want to cover ground quickly, this is the car to do it in. But because it is relatively soft in its ride, it does mean that you don't want to be changing directions overly quickly. There is a fair amount of roll, and you can feel the weight of the car shifting from side to side. It also means that you need to be so smooth. It really desires you to be smooth with your throttle control, your braking, particularly during gear changes. Now, interestingly enough, it's not downshifts that are the problem. Absolutely not. A bit of throttle matching, a bit of heel and toe, and you can keep the car balanced even when turning into a corner. But it's if you're accelerating out of a corner and you're tempted to go for that extra gear when you're reaching the top of the rev band, the movement of your feet, the pressing of the clutch, the letting go of the throttle, when you get back on the throttle, it gives you a roll almost and can catch you off guard. It really makes the back of the car just step out just a little, and you have to be ready for it. You have to catch it. People say this is the best driver's car. I would have to agree with them, but you have to be careful. It demands your respect. Okay, let's spend a bit of time considering the engine. As we said, this is an NA2. In fact, it's one of the last of the line 2005 cars. So 3.2 V6 sitting right there, and I can hear it snarling and whirring at me. 280 horsepower is what they quote. I do think it's probably a bit more than that. It feels more. 220 pound-foot of torque means it's torquey for a Honda. Probably average, you would say, for most other cars of this kind of performance. But it still do 60 in just a little over 5 seconds. This car is ample fast enough. On paper it may not seem, but if you're out really enjoying this car and you really want a supercar that you feel you can rag its neck and really give it some, can't think of anything else that you would want to be driving. What's wonderful though is this is still a VTEC engine, which means you rev, get to almost 5,000 revs, and it opens up gloriously. And it absorbs the bumps. You can go into every single corner, not even fretting, coming up to a tighter hairpin right here. It sharpens up. This is where that heavier steering comes in, but once you're used to it, no drama. Now by today's standards, this isn't a rapid car. In fact, the new Civic Type R that we've just reviewed in another video is more powerful. Okay, it takes a little bit longer to get the power down, but it is more powerful. And you think, is this really a supercar? Does it have supercar performance? Well, it really does. But it's a demanding car. As we've said, you have to give it respect, and you need to drive it hard to get that performance out of it. But when you do, it is seriously rewarding. But it's that gear change. Even when dropping down a gear, a little flip of the throttle, and you're there. So precise, you never miss a gear. It clunks through, it's so rewarding. So, having spent 4 days with the NSX, is it true what they say, should you really meet your heroes? On this occasion, I'm very glad I did. The NSX to me is right up there. It always has been. Ask me if I want a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, a Porsche. For me, it's always been the NSX. And that's even been without driving one. Now that I've driven one, I was so worried that it was going to disappoint. It was going to let me down. But I just can't stop smiling. And because it's so comfortable, so easy to drive, so rewarding when you get it right as well, I can't think of anything else that I'd rather drive. This is still my dream car. This is still something that I will aspire to owning one day.